started episode one and I just kept hitting next episode to the end. So it
Yes.
is very binge worthy as a series. Joe, I'd love to start with you because I always like to ask actors like kind of how they find the technical aspects of their characters, the way they speak, the physicality. And Luke is such an interesting character. I was just wondering what helped you kind of define the way he would be portrayed on screen.
The only point of reference that you have with an adaptation is the character on the pages, you know. So you, I try to keep it similar enough to the character in the book, you know, because people who watch it and who have read the book want a familiarity with both, and but you never want to distance it too much from, well, at least I don't want to distance it too much from who I am as a person, you know, because you just want to, that's making life more difficult for yourself, you know. um so yeah, I would say I found a balance between how to bring myself into the role and also keep it to how Stephen King initially wrote it, for sure.
He has such a beautiful combination of kind of a goofy vulnerability and like a real grit and determination and strength to him as a person. So I think those are the kind of qualities that he,
Sweet guy.
pulled out
Very sweet guy.
in Luke, which is why you root for him so hard.
Definitely. Ben, you're no stranger to an adaptation yourself. And, kind of referencing what Joe said, like the source material is so important. But I know Tim's role was kind of, they found ways to get him more involved into the story. Where did you find at like ways to play with the character and kind of just like put your own personal stamp on him as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Joe said, the first few chapters of the book are very much in, before we even get to the Institute, in Tim's very kind of lonely, uh, sort of inner psychological world where he's trying to find some peace and trying to, negotiate and digest the shame that he's carrying from his sort of former life. And so those were very interesting to me in terms of like a jumping off point for a character. I think in this show, we made him a little bit less bookish, a little bit more a little bit more physical.
Mhm.
Not that he doesn't do, isn't extraordinarily helpful in the novel, but I mean, I think we wanted to make it kind of, TV is obviously a visual medium. You want to see characters kind of moving and doing things, and because he does disappear for a lot of the novel, which is kind of interesting because you're wondering how their stories connect and how they're going to come together and how he's going to be helpful. And I think we kept that still in the show. Their stories feel separate, but you just keep getting reminded of the other one's existence, and these two men are going to be important to each other eventually. And I think that actually helps bring a lot of the tension to it. But I wanted to also be true and have enough time, especially at the beginning, to sort of see Tim's kind of quiet, kind of stoic, lonely world and how that kind of fire in him gets relit.
I look at the production design. I think about the ensemble of kids that you have at the Institute. There's so many strong players when it comes to this project. So for both of you, who are kind of your unsung heroes for the project as a whole?
I came into this not knowing just quite how much work goes into doing it. Like Jack was saying that this has been he's wanted to do this and it's been a project for 5 years, so it's like, it's insane. It's insane the amount of work and time that's put into this. And we as actors turn up for, 2-3% of the entire process. And yeah, it humbles you because it's what you see, but we couldn't do anything else that goes into it. It's really admirable. Everybody who has that much passion for what they do is very, very admirable, because
Yeah.
there's so many people that work on these kinds of things.
Well, we had Jack Bender as our sort of directing producer, who's so intimately familiar with Stephen King's stories, and he's done adaptations of his work before to great kind of tense effect and acclaim. So we knew we were in really safe hands with him directing. And Ben Cavell, who's worked on Homeland and Justified, and he knows how to put these stories together in an interesting way. And he was brilliant behind the scenes, working particularly. I don't want to speak for Joe, but working with me in terms of making the character sound like Tim always in every episode, but also like honestly, like the costuming department, like finding a night knocker is a made up job. So would he wear a police shirt? Would he be in a full uniform? Would in this small town, how does he kind of make himself authoritative enough, but not kind of stepping on the police department's toes? And a lot of that is like how you present, what costume do you wear? So thinking about that through with the costume department, or like being explained by the props department how this ridiculous clock that would never be used really in this day and age works. But it kind of all adds to the kind of like the mystery of the show, and also the sort of idiosyncrasy of it. And there are people like that in every, like Joe said, in every department who kind of help you build these characters who then help tell the story as a whole.
Amazing. Guys, I do have to wrap, but speaking to Ben and Jack earlier, they said there's hope for a season 2. So hopefully we'll get to meet again for that. Yeah.